to Dork Points, everybody, and tonight we will be counting down the best of the rest. The middle-of-the-road games that aren't bad, they're not the best thing you've ever played, but they're worth mentioning. Here we go.
This is Grandmaster Belial, addressing all warriors of the First Company. Forged from countless ships in the seething forces of warp space, a space hulk has been deposited here by the uncaring tides of the immaterial.
Alright, now, starting with the most mediocre of the bunch, it is Space Hulk Deathwing. This is a shooter. I love shooters. I gotta say, I love the environment and the look of everything. However, the game is a slog. You are in a big, giant, slow metal suit, and you have to work your way through these maze-like environments, and almost like a puzzle to figure out how to get to your exit point to the next part of the Space Hulk. And as you can see there's like these Ridley Scott-style aliens all over the place that you have to shoot, and you have little power-ups here. The game it looks great, but again, you're walking around in this, there's an alien, okay, but you're walking around in this slow, clunky metal suit trying to traverse what is basically a maze. And as you can see, you're always going back to the map, and the map doesn't show you the clear path. It's all what's the word? Trial and error. Over and over again, trial and error, trying to figure out your way through. And so yeah, a game worth mentioning, but man, definitely a mediocre game, and that's why it's at number 10 for the best of the rest. Alright, moving on to Raging Justice. This is number 9, and it's not a good game. It's really not a mediocre game. It's kind of a trashy game. I don't know if anybody ever played Two Crude Dudes, but it harkens back to that. It's basically a Streets of Rage style ripoff. It's not a long game, but I love the look of everything. Also, it's not a very politically correct game at all. I'm sure people will have problems with some of the subject matter, but as trashy as it is, well, that's part of the charm of it, really. It's just this fun little trashy mess, and sometimes that's what you want. Sometimes you want the cotton candy, and it's not good for you, but you want it. The fighting is not the best. The movement is not the best. You feel very limited, but the look and style of everything is what makes it. And that's why it's on this list. At number 9, trashy but fun, Raging Justice. Yeah. Alright, so at number 8, we have a tie. I know that's not necessarily fair, but that's what it is, man. Both of these games are kind of tied with each other. The first being, of course, Gauntlet, which I played with Jake, and he didn't dig it. It's the original Diablo, and and this is the new Gauntlet, looking very Diablo-like. But yeah, he didn't dig it because it's just kind of a dumbed-down, simpler version. But it is the precursor, and that's worth mentioning. I loved this game as a kid, and they just scratch an itch somehow, and I do enjoy this game, but as simple and stupid as it is, it's also really hard. As you can see there, game over. Yeah. So the other game that's right in the same, it's not the same niche, but it's at the same level, so it is also tied for number 8. I know that's a cheat, but We Were Here. It is a multiplayer sort of game. It's 2 players. One is the librarian, and he's down in a library, and one is the explorer. And you're up in this castle somewhere while he's reading you clues, and you have to solve puzzles to move forward into the next room and on to the next puzzle. It is hard, but it is satisfying. It doesn't hit all the buttons like some of those puzzly games. It's no Myst, but at least you have another player there, and that adds an interesting dynamic because you're working together to solve these clues, and that makes it fun. Sometimes really frustrating though too, because you got to get along and you can't get too stressed. Like a skeleton bird.
Do it right now. We'll play it again later.
Yeah, you want to call it?
You got a skeleton bird.
Yeah.
Like. Oh, I see. Oh, describe the skeleton bird.
All right, coming in at number 7, it is Onrush. Onrush. This, I think I bought this for $1.95 on the PlayStation Store, and it's just arcadey, trashy fun, kind of like Raging Justice. It's arcadey fun, or it's arcadey garbage, depending on what you think. The game is simple and fun to play. However, as it ramps up, it becomes more and more challenging and difficult, almost to the point of frustration. As you see here, I'm in one of the later levels, and I can barely keep up with anybody. So there is a breaking point with this game. I think I burned through the first 4 or 5 sections and really loved it. It has that menu set up like Wipeout, so you go through the challenges. But yeah, it's great, but yeah. Alright. At number 6, it's Werewolf. Werewolf Apocalypse. Earthblood. Why does this game need 3 titles? Because Werewolf Apocalypse is a role-playing game, and then this is the video game, so they had to add another title to it. I don't know. It's just a bad move. The game has a lot of stealthy elements. You could call it Metal Gear Werewolf. Yeah, and I question that design or that initial idea to make it this way, because in the end, you're a werewolf. And the most satisfying parts of this game, I mean, some of the stealth is fun, I have to admit. And it brings me back to Metal Gear. Like you can see here, you're on an oil rig. It has that total, like, Metal Gear 2 look to it. Somebody really loved that game. But it all comes down to combat. And there's a bunch of these guys that you can stealth and you can use poison darts on, but then they add all these other bigger characters, like that guy in the background, if you see him there, and you can't stealth those guys. So what's the point of all this mechanic? Because you get into a room and you can take out 4 or 5 of the guys, but then the big dudes and the armored dudes, you can't really hurt them. So it always comes down to you busting out into your awesome werewolf form, and that is really satisfying and fun. Here we go. Yeah, best part of the game. And man, if someone just made a game like this a little better, I mean, there's just a few foibles, like the stealthing, and then a lot of the design is flawed, but man, it's so much fun to play as a werewolf. And that's why it's on this list at number 6. Again, look at these, the people, the renderings, whatever you call them. It has a cheap look to it, or an old look, almost a PlayStation 3 look. I don't know why that is. It's really a shame. Yeah, look at her. Somebody needs to redo this or something, because this was really fun to play, but it is definitely nowhere near an A+ title or AAA or anything like that. Werewolf Apocalypse Blood Earth. Why 3 names? Okay, moving on. It is Star Wars Squadrons, and this is like the big please forgive me kind of letter to Star Wars fans. If you ever played any of the aerial missions in Star Wars Battlefront, they kind of took everything that was wrong with that and said, okay, if it's all going to be in the air, let's make the ships a little more pliable. Like, you don't instantly explode if your wing or something touches the edge of another ship or a meteor, you take damage and you can repair your ship, kind of like in Elite. There's all these different systems where you can reroute power to. It's really fun. It ticks all the boxes. But again, it is just a flying game. So there you go. And but it is Star Wars. And so if you enjoy Star Wars and you enjoy stuff like Elite, it is not quite that, but it is certainly it's like they repaired everything that was wrong with the Battlefront stuff. So worth playing. All right, coming in at number 4 is a game my dad, out of the kindness of his heart, bought me for my birthday, and I wasn't sure if I was going to dig it or not, but I did. I've never played any of these games before. This is Watchdogs Legion. It is the third of the Watchdogs series. I've heard middling reviews about the first two. I heard the second one is better than the first. They are open world hacking style games, Grand Theft Hack, I guess, and they are really fun to play. It is also really easy to cheese these games, though, and that is the problem. That's why it's on this list. Here you can see the awesome little hacker bot, your little spider bot thing that can crawl around, and each person, and you have an endless amount of people that you can add to your crew. You have to do little missions to recruit each of them. They're not too hard for the most part, but every once in a while you'll hit one that's a little extreme. But each person has their own special, unique ability. Like this gentleman here has his little flying droid that he can move around the city. So with all these different special powers, it all comes down to knowing the mission. You really have to kind of go in blind and figure things out, almost reminiscent of Hitman 2, which we will discuss later. But there's Big Ben, beautiful game, just look at it, and it is fun to play. Yeah, real fun. Alright, now, at number 3 is a trilogy. I hate to call it mediocre, but because it is really fun to play. But again, it's at number 3, so we're moving up on the list of quality here. It is the Lara Croft Tomb Raider Remake Trilogy. That's right, I cheated again. I added all 3 into one number. I'm sorry, but yeah. I guess I'm not sorry. I don't know. So what is it? It's Uncharted Tomb Raider, Uncharted Lara Croft, pretty much. Again, very pretty to look at, and yes, it's fun to play. I love this little visual here. Yeah, so this is a scene from Tomb Raider 1. Yeah, isn't that pretty? Alright, and here's some scenes from Tomb Raider 2, which is called... God, see, this is half the problem. I played them all right in a row. Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and all these games ended up free to play through PlayStation Plus. There, one at a time over the last year or two, and now we're seeing a scene from the third one, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Now, these games weren't huge hits, unfortunately. That's kind of why they're on this list. Look at it. It's so much fun to play. I beat all 3, and I enjoyed them. They're immense. They're dense. That rhymed. But again, it's Uncharted Tomb Raider. Alright, now at number 2 is, of course, Hitman number 2. I didn't do that on purpose, I swear. Now this, just like Tomb Raider, has a lot of games and a lot of history. There are 3 now for the PS4, and I believe there are 3 or more for the PlayStation 2. So this game's got a lot of history. I have never played them, though, and I was very surprised when I finally played this. It is not what I expected. It is kind of open-worldy, but there's a kind of a through line logic to the game. If you explore just a little bit, you can find all these different and inventive ways to take people out, and there's so many options for every level. But it's not a total like stealth kind of game. It's not like Metal Gear. It's more like you have to find an opportunity, get a disguise, and then kind of move from one area to the next, and then maybe find another opportunity to take somebody out, get another disguise, and move into the next area until you get that moment. And you're picking up all this information, and you need to get to a moment where you figure out or get this information that allows you to operate something or do something that will end up killing your target. Almost like a puzzle game, sort of. Yeah, not what I expected, but pretty fun to play. Yeah, Hitman 2. Alright, and now, at number 1, final game of the night. Number 1, deservedly or controversially, is Prototype. Prototype. It's a much more old school game compared to everything on this list. I believe it's PS2, late era PS2, or maybe it's early era PS3. I can't remember. But Chris Karen told me this was on sale for $5, and he was like, get it, get it, get it, you'll love it. And I do love it, but it's got a difficulty spike. There's so many things you can do, though. Like, look at this. Pick up the car, throw it at the tank blows up, you can jump into the tanks, and it's almost like, see how it looks very Spider-Man-y? It's almost like you're playing Venom. Like, he's kind of an anti-hero, but it's, yeah, this is what Venom the game would be like, I think. And you have to, you're not a good guy, but you're not a bad guy, and you're trying to figure out why you've been altered genetically, and in order to do that, you have to feed on people's brains. Yeah. And when you feed on their brains, you get little cut bits, like this one here.
I want a curtain of men in armor up the moment the call comes in. Overflights on the rivers are ready to pick off ships trying to cross. The bridges are wired and blocked by armor.
Once we're primed, nothing unsanctioned gets on or off the island.
So yeah, there you go, Prototype, and there is a Prototype 2. They didn't do very well because they were kind of up against Infamous, and there was a lot of similar games at that time, but definitely worth playing. However, I do have to say that as the game goes on, it is an old school game, and there is a difficulty spike to it that I just couldn't tolerate. I got to this level where you have to jump from one tank to another and destroy them, and somehow have to live through that while being shot point blank with tanks. So yeah, I just almost to the end and just had to give up. Bad game design in there. You know, they're older games, so they're just more difficult, but definitely worth trying out. And thank you, Chris. Yeah. So there you go. That was more than 10 games. Dork points fully earned. Good night.
Switch to sweep mode. Go now.